Okay, well, so let's continue with the final real main line, the knight f6 here. Actually, if black also has possibility for that, this is the best idea to coming out with both knights. Because if we can't attack immediately, that is the most powerful. But let's see how is it going on, because maybe we will have a quick e5 strategy. Of course, we continue the plan with queen e2, which is still really good. And a6. But why a6? This we already discussed in the previous chapters, because always the b5 squares controlling is very important for black. But okay, let's see if he just play a bishop e7, and he would like to develop as quick as possible. Now we continue with rook d1. And okay, bishop d7, this we also saw. Now he developed with all of the pieces, but it also doesn't solve his problems, because still he is in a pushed position. So bishop g5, that's why not bishop f4, because sometimes e5 he also want to play himself. Even in this position e5 will be the main line. So bishop f4 would be just losing a tempo. So bishop g5, castle. Bishop takes f6. And the g takes f6. Why he take with the pawn and he weaken his king's position? Because if he would take back with the bishop, we simply just play rook takes d6. Bishop c3. Because why rook d6? We just take the pawn, and rook a d1 is the threat. And after bishop takes c3, of course we can take back, it's also a nice position, but even rook a d1 is a little bit maybe smart, even smarter. And white has a great initiative. So that's why bishop, he just must keep the d6 pawn, so g takes f6, and he tries to play kind of Rouser pawn structure. Knight b5. Now he didn't play the a6, so we would like to use out that immediately. The d6 is hanging now. The only normal defense is queen b8. But now he wants to play a6, so let's prepare for that. And now we continue with a very nice and deep continuation with rook d3 exclamation mark. Let's see why we play this. The reason is that if he would, first of all we come to the third rank, which is very useful. His g file is opened, where is his king, so very quickly we can create kind of attack there, even with knight h4, queen h5, rook g3 or rook h3. You can imagine how strong it will be against his king. And also, if he would continue with a6, we have a nice continuation with knight takes d6. And the general idea is bishop d6, rook a d1, and we win back the piece like this. But first of all, let's see what would happen if he ignores that and just play rook d8. What is black's idea? He gives back the pawn. He hopes that maybe the d6 knight will be kind of, how to say, kind of trap. I don't know how, because with rook a d1 and queen d2 I can protect very easily. But okay, come there and maybe come with bishop f8, sometimes bishop g7, and the position is just okay. But now coming very strong crushing play, which is the beginning of a deadly attack. Knight takes f7, double exclamation mark. But let's see why is it so good. King takes f7 and knight h4, because first it was not clear why we sacrificed the knight, and the queen couldn't come immediately, and also wasn't any knight e5 and knight g5. So that's why he should go like this, and open up the queen's diagonal with queen h5. Queen f4, logical move to come with the queen, because he would like to defend his king a little bit if his queen is more near. Otherwise queen h5 would be too strong. Let's see what could still he play. For example, how about knight e5, because it seems tempting. Okay, let's see how to do like this. Then we have queen h5 check, and king g7, and I can come with the rook. The question is that we go to g3 or h3 immediately. Maybe let's go to h3, because we have immediately a threat with knight f5. So that's why let's see this queen f4. Queen h5 check, of course we also come with this. King g8. Rook g3 check. And the point is that he's hopeless, because if king h8 then knight g6 and we win the queen. And in case of king f8, then queen takes h7 and white is winning, because threatening with rook g8 checkmate, and we have a decisive attack. Even knight g6 is also a threat. Okay, so this was the point of rook d8, why rook d8 is not working, because even his f7 square is also weak. How about bishop takes d6, rook a d1, and okay, bishop e7 is the main. How about bishop takes h2? Also not good, because okay, he get one more pawn for the piece, but the bishop is hanging, he must go here, and with queen h5, white has a decisive attack. Rook g3, rook h3, he will get checkmate very quickly. This is just a big problem here. Okay, so bishop e7, rook takes d7, and rook d8. Of course he would like to exchange some pieces, at least the rook, because one rook, because doubling on the d file was extremely dangerous for him. So rook takes d8, bishop takes d8, and with rook d7 we can have a great initiative. Now material down we also have, so this is not a question, white is better here. Okay, so this was the a6. Let's see how about the knight b4. Also he would like to get some counterplay with an active piece play. Rook b3, bishop takes b5. Yes, because it was a tempo, so what can he do with his knight? If he goes back, it was no point of the bishop b4. So his idea was that maybe he will do some breakout, like this bishop b5 and d5. Otherwise it was no point of his play at all. Okay, how about if a5 instead? a5 is just a bad move, because knight d4, and he even weaken more the light square there. Moreover, I am quicker, can come on the king's side with the rook and the queen, and we will have a decisive attack here. For example, d5, and with queen h5 very quickly we can arrive. Queen f4, rook h3, queen takes e4, rook h4. Yeah, just protect the knight and force the queen here, and with rook g4 we win that. So this is just a very nice idea. Okay, so a5, knight d4, it was just good. Let's see how about d5. Because what is the difference now? If I would play the same strategy with knight d4, then then he would play a6, and if I start counter attack with queen h5, then he has queen e5 or queen f4, and in case of rook h3, the e4 pawn is hanging, and he protected everything. So it's interesting because the g file is opened, but not clear how can we attack with that. Rook g3 check, also king h8, nothing is special. Queen h5 now, and he comes with queen f4 again. So his king is pretty safe, not so easy to attack him. Okay, let's go back. And let's see how about kind of different way. For example, a3. D takes e4. Yes, because if the knight leaves, he will have a big problem because e takes d5. No, at least I can take it, so the knight is trapped. But e takes d5 will be also dangerous on the e file. So d takes e4, this intermediate move is important for him, because now if we would take it back, the knight could jump to d5 yet. But we play a takes b4, e takes f3, take with the rook, king h8, and after rook d1, white has a great compensation. Black is still a pawn up, but his king is not so good, so that is an obvious compensation. Moreover, we will have a penetration with rook d7 also, which is also a big problem for him. Okay, so this is really nice. Let's go back a little bit and see how about the e5. This old bishop d7 was that when we had several counterplay for the material. h3, because yes, it's important because he would like to come with bishop g4 and knight d4, and this can be very dangerous here, so very important to start with h3 this castle and bishop e3. Bishop g5 is also interesting to fight for the d5 square. We had this motif already in the previous chapters, so it's a completely acceptable alternative. But okay, we go to e3 now because controlling the d4 square a bit more, and let's see how is that going on. For example, a6, very typical move, but how about bishop e6? Because bishop e6 would be the best for him, because developing move, the exchange is good for him. If bishop e6, f takes e6, he even opened the f file for the rook also, so black is fine here. But okay, we don't take, we play rook a c1, and still we can say that we have pressure for the pawn, because he has just a d6 extra pawn. But d6 is a weakness, it's a weak pawn, so if we try to find a good play, I'm sure we will have compensation for it. Rook c8, bishop takes e6, f takes e6, now we take already, and b4 exclamation mark. What is the idea behind b4? Yeah, the point is that we would like to get some initiative and chase away his knight a little bit, because maybe later we will have something knight takes e5 here. a6, because for example if knight takes b4, then we have a very interesting active move with queen b5. However, knight takes e5 would be also possible. Queen a5, of course he was in pin. Knight f3. If h6, then knight d4, and we have kind of initiative here, and that is okay. Or if queen a3, then we can play queen d2, d5, and after e5 also we have compensation. Unclear position, but we have compensation. But not completely clear this knight e5, so maybe queen b5 gains the initiative a little bit more. Pawn d5. if knight c6 instead, to go back, then we play queen takes b7, knight a5. Yes, because if rook c7, then the queen is just going back simply. Queen, for example, a6, queen c8, queen d3, of course I don't exchange, knight b4, and after queen d2 again, compensation, I protected myself as well. I will chase away his knight back and then maybe with knight b5 go forward. So even if he can castle and finish the development, is also not completely easy for him. Also not an easy thing at all. So let's see how about knight a5. Now queen b5, so a little bit go back here. Knight c4 and knight g5. Just go here. Knight takes e3. F takes e3. And rook b8. Yes, with knight g5 he immediately tries to attack on the e6, and we use out that the queen is controlling this diagonal, so he can't protect with the simple queen d7. As we take, and then the e6 is also hanging. So knight takes e3, f takes e3, rook b8, and after that we have queen a4, just go back with the queen, and yeah, I think queen c4 was also a possibility to attack one more with the pawn, but on a4 is also good because he can't protect with the queen. So also so good like we attack with one more, because if he would play kind of queen c8, then I have, maybe I have something knight jump and discover threat here. Okay, alright, so knight c6, queen takes b7, with that white had really good counterplay. Let's see how about, for example, pawn d5. Pawn d5 is the most excited move, because he immediately finds counterplay in the center. However, it also involves some weaknesses behind it. E takes d5, e takes d5. If he would take with the b knight, then we have queen takes b7 again, and we are happy for that. His pawn structure is ugly and bad. Bishop d6, even if he keeps the pawn up also. Knight takes d5. Why knight takes d5? Because of course we don't want to for this pawn structure for him, but we were hanging on c3. If we go somewhere with the knight, then he can take on e3 also. Moreover, we get back one more pawn. So takes, pawn takes, and bishop takes a7. So usually we should be an important reason for that if we play so unprincipled move like knight d5, and his pawn structure will be suddenly very good. Queen e8, bishop e3 just goes back, d4, rook takes c8, queen takes c8, queen b3 check, king h8, and after bishop d2 we can also say that the position is unclear, completely playable, but a bit unclear. And okay, his center is good, but we have a far past pawn, so the game is completely double-edged fight.